Good afternoon, everybody. Kenny, always a pleasure to be here with you, and Herb, Nick, and Brian. Good luck to both of you guys, I know, as you go forward in hopefully the playoffs. Nick and Brian, I know CJ very well, and he's a great guy, and Brian hit the nail on the head with Coach Johnson. This guy is full of energy. He's the right man for the job. If he's given time and resources, I feel very confident he's going to make it a very stable program. And at Tulane, that's a very strong thing to do right now, and that's what they need to do first, is get it strong, and it'll be successful. And with good people like Curtis Johnson there, that's a great start, I think. Herb, good luck to Jay, and as Newman goes forward. You know, when I look at Kenny Trahan, it makes me think of Sean Payton, because there's so many of occasions when I would stand in front of a press conference with Sean as a reporter, and you go, well, what about Kenny Trahan? Kenny hurt his wrist, you know, in the game the other day. What's his status? Well, he's fine. He's fine. He'll be ready. And Kenny, you know that. And so I miss Sean for a lot of reasons. Different reasons than many fans of Saints football miss him. Would they be different with Sean? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. The Saints would be much different. Would they be 3-1 different, 4-0 different? Who knows, right? But I know this. When you looked at the Hall of Fame game back in August, you had Arizona and the Saints meet up in Canton. Great weekend. Willie Roaf went in, was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame with the Saints. And you watched that game. Saints won. It was a horrible game. Kicked off the NFL season, if you will. And if you said there's going to be one team that's going to be 4-0 and one team that's going to be 0-4, I know who I would have picked 4-0. Well, it just goes to show you, and Herb and everybody connected with football and sports in general understands that there is a very fine line between success and failure, and particularly at the pro level. Now, the Saints haven't played well, obviously, okay? They've got some inherent excuses regarding, with Payton being absent, Joe Vitt, the instability at leadership. There's a lot of pressure on number 9 behind me, and I'd be remiss if I didn't just recognize, as I know you guys and ladies have, with his accomplishment yesterday. When you think about what he was able to do, tie a 52-year-old record that Johnny Unitas has held since 1960. And chances are he's probably going to break it Sunday night against San Diego. That's incredible. I mean, we are seeing one of the true great quarterbacks to have ever played the game, and he'll be recognized that in due time. But when you looked at what is all the distractions and things that this team has faced, I'm surprised that they're 0-4, certainly. I think I had them 3-1 in my preseason prognostication, which, everybody has one, right? But I think I had them 3-1, losing to Green Bay, winning the first 3 games. And the one game that surprises me more than anything is the Kansas City game. When they were up 24-6, I thought, well, here we go. Okay, this team is finding its swagger again. If you follow athletics closely enough, you can see there's so much to body language, and there's so much to how guys feel good about themselves, or whatever the sport might be. You saw it briefly yesterday up in Lambeau. After they made a couple of turnovers, they regained the lead. You could just, this was like the team that you had seen for so many years under Sean Payton. And I thought that they were going to turn the corner against Kansas City, and you saw what happened there. And you go back, and if you're going to look at a turning point in the season, I think you look at this game. I really do. I think you look at that game from the last 25 minutes on. If this team is not able to pull it out, I think that's going to be a turning point to a season. Can they turn it around? History says no. There's one team since they went to the new 12-team format in 1990, one team that started out 0-4 of 77 teams that started at 0-4 went on to the playoffs, and that was San Diego in '92. with Stan Humphries. They actually went 11-5 and won the AFC West. So it can be done. It's very difficult to do. You know, they've got, if you look at their schedule, the remaining 12 games in their schedule, I don't think there's literally, I'd be hard-pressed to put a W by any one of those 12 games. Really, and then, you know, in the past, that wasn't the case. You could pencil in some W's with the Saints, but, you know, they've got to regroup, find themselves, get some stability in leadership. Joe Vitt comes back in a couple of weeks, and see what happens. You know, there are 12 games to play. Certainly not going to bury this team. They've got a lot of great leadership there, a lot of great veterans. They've been there, done that, and winning a Super Bowl can carry a team, a veteran team like this, a long way, even when it's not their season. So I know we're kind of pressed for time here. I'm just going to make my comments real brief and just open it up to any questions on the floor. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Brian, I kind of hold the media as a whole a little bit responsible for putting out in the training camp and preseason that this team could possibly be the one, a much better product than what we're seeing, and could possibly be the first team to host the Super Bowl. I mean that was being recorded not by paper, not just by paper, but through the TV, radio, the media as a whole. Was that more of the media just pushing the company line that the Saints are putting out, or does the media locally here not really realize what they're looking at?
That's a great question. You know, I'm going to have to include myself in that group that was drinking from the Kool-Aid, I guess, if you will. I really thought that being a veteran team, having a veteran coaching staff, that they could overcome insurmountable odds. And I guess, and I know this through 4 games, I'm dead wrong. I think the national media perhaps even had a better handle on it than we did. Sometimes you can't tell the forest from the trees, if you know what I mean by that. Sometimes you can't, you know, I looked at a big picture and thought that Drew Brees is capable of doing almost anything. He's capable of helping those around him become better players, and that's why he's making $100 million. Anybody involved in coaching understands that a guy like Drew Brees can make a Ben Grubbs better, or and I'll take some lesser-known people, Tremont Bushrod, Zach Strief, Brian De La Puente. These guys probably couldn't start for a lot of NFL teams, but when you have a quarterback like Drew Brees, he makes everybody around him better. Okay? They've got a lot of possession receivers. Marcus Colston's a possession receiver, nothing more. A very good one, okay? But he's a possession receiver. Anyway, we can go on and on and on about, but I bought into it for sure. I definitely did. I picked him to go 11-5, win the NFC South, and probably get to the divisional round. Despite all of the distractions and odds against him. You know, the bounty scandal has been a dramatic dismantling of a franchise. Forget about the fines, forget about the draft picks, forget about the suspensions to a Mickey Loomis and what have you. But I think the fact that it takes away a brilliant offensive mind in Sean Payton, a guy who's a tremendous, one of the NFL's top motivators. You know, he's joined at the hip with Drew Brees. I mean, Drew Brees misses Sean Payton tremendously. You know, I mean, it's like it's a symbiotic relationship. It's like a father and a son. I mean, these guys, they're on the same page, everything. I mean, everything. You know, Drew and Sean were the same play. They were, you know, so sometimes, I mean, I know this. I didn't take that all into account like I should have. So I definitely was drinking the Kool-Aid. And that's not to say that they can't come back and have a respectable season, but all those suspensions, and I'm not even talking about Jonathan Vilma or Will Smith, okay? I really thought that they could do well without those players. I was wrong. I mean, they've got a ways to go to, it may be a full off season. They've got to replace some key people on defense. I think they really need, they don't need to reload, they don't need to rebuild. They do need to reload on defense. I think it's time that Cedric Ellis and players like that have not had, they've had opportunities to step up, they haven't done it. And I think at some point you have to cut bait. And I think Cedric Ellis is one of those kind of players. They still need some improvement at linebacker. You know, I mean, we go down the line, but I think that's still one area of the football that they just haven't been able to find the right pieces to that equation.
And the Saints had the chance to draft Clay Matthews.
Well, yeah, you know, I think, you know, when you invest $100 million in a player, it limits what you can do elsewhere. You can't do it all in one offseason. And that was important to get Drew Brees under contract.
Yeah, I mean, they could have drafted him.
Yeah, back in those. Sure, they could have. They could have taken A.J. Hawk. I mean, we can go down the list of players that they had a chance to draft, but they didn't. Yeah.
Brian, running game's abysmal. How about a time for Chris Ivory, who's the bruising back, that these other guys aren't getting it done?
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, I'm not a Mark Ingram fan. I got to be honest. Okay, I just. At least the way that they're using him, and maybe that's the only way you can use him, but I never thought I'd say that everybody out there is right and in the stands and on the radio. But you put Mark Ingram in the backfield, you're going to turn and hand him the ball. Now, their philosophy is, yeah, that's the case. You still got to stop him. If you block him, you know, Mark's a hard runner. He's punishing. He's going to get his yards. But they know that play is going to happen. They've never even – I don't even think they've thrown out of that formation. They just turn and hand the ball. So I'm with you. I'd like to see, look, they're 0-4. Give Chris Ivory a chance. He's in a contract year. You're not going to see him again if he, you know, it's Travaris Cadet's a nice player. But they've got their three guys that they want to play with, and they've got them dressed every week. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think by any chance that the leniency that the commissioner has shown to Greg Williams, allowing him to go to games? Now, I understand that he's not under contract and he's not employed by the NFL at this point in time. But do you think that maybe that might be the beginning of a little more leniency down the line in our favor?
For Sean, you're talking about for Sean? Yeah, I think it could be. You know, I think that the way that the bounty scandal has played out, certainly it's been a negative on the league. There's no doubt about it. You know, I bet if Roger Goodell was honest, he would say that he would have wanted it to handle it differently, to have it played out differently in the public. It's nothing but a black eye for the league, regardless of what you think, if the Saints are guilty or not guilty or whatever. But the way it's played out, the way it's been handled, it's still lingering. We still don't have a finality to it, you know. So I hope so. You know, I do. I didn't think Sean would be sanctioned for the whole season at all. Yes, sir.
How many of those 4 games they lost because the receivers got butterfingers?
Well, they've had a bunch of drops, haven't they?
I mean, just dropped wide open every one yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
I blame the losses on the receivers.
Well, you know, they've had trouble separating. And Jimmy Graham is a great tight end, but he's not the kind of guy that you need to stretch a field necessarily. And you're seeing what's happening because they can't stretch the field. Jimmy Graham actually became a non-factor and has been. He's got 18, I don't know, whatever the catches are, and he's a good red zone. But he's lost. He's not the guy that's going to. Yeah, you're right.
I'm not talking about the ones where they get hit when the ball gets
Tell me.
there.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yep.
You were talking about Coach Greg Williams. So when he signed that letter on September 14th, was that a death nail and any player ever wanted to play for him again?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Selling out the player.
Yeah, no, it's going to be hard for him to go in if he'll probably be employed again, but it's going to be hard for him to go in and look at a player and say you're my guy when. You know, it's so easy. I remember Dale Brown saying this, you got to walk in somebody's moccasin, and it is true. We can sit here and cast judgments on people and stuff like that. I don't know how I would react. I'd like to think I'd do the right thing, whatever that may be. And I'm sure Greg thought he did, you know. I've known Greg for a long time. Yes, ma'am, last one.
In the Kansas City game, in the fourth quarter, it looked like that they just completely gave up on the running game. They needed to run clock. We were winning at that point in time, but it was 1, 2, 3 and out. Nobody was catching the ball. We were 10 seconds were going off the clock. The defense had to go back out there. What happened to the running game that game?
Well, see, I thought that was a perfect example of how the offense missed Sean Payton. Sean is almost at his best in keeping a team with a lead, protecting a lead, and keeping the opponent at bay. And they miss that tremendously, I think. He's generally a pretty good clock manager for the most part, play selection, and people believe in him. The players believe in him, you know. And Nick addressed the word belief, and I totally agree. I think, you know what, belief takes you a long way, and belief has taken teams that aren't as good or players that aren't as good, and it's taken them a long way. And I think Sean has the real good pulse for that team, and I think it's showing right now in that 0-4 start. Listen, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Always do enjoy it. Thank you.